each palm, and they'll be adding at least 2 more layers, as you will see. Now what you do with the fan brush is you slide. If you're doing the lines on the right, you slide to the right and down, slide and down, slide and down, until you, the thing to remember is make sure that the ink, the paint is thinned out with water, so that the paint will slide very smoothly with the fan brush, and the bristles will create the different breaks in between, as you see here. Having done the right palms, now I'm going to start doing the palms on the left side. I'm still using the black paint. Every time I add a palm, I keep in mind the length of that palm, keeping the negative space in mind of how far they go out from the left side of the canvas panel. Notice that I make sure that the palms stay at least half the size of the length of the trunk. You do have some palm trees that are much longer, and when the trunk itself is longer, then I may go 1/3 the size for the palms. 1/3 the size of the trunk, that is. Now what I do for the thin palms, I use a much smaller fan brush. If you notice, I pretty much put down the approximately 17 palms that I see on the picture. And I do try to keep them to the size that I see on the picture itself. You can see here up close. Now notice it's all black up to now. Now I'm going, once I finish that and I like it, then I go ahead and use a light green. And that light green will be the second layer that will go over each palm, but making sure that I do not cover the black that appears underneath that I just add it. I might as well just go ahead and put the brown, the bottom, and the shadow for the palm tree. I'm still using the fan brush. I do the same thing with the green that I did with the black, and that is to make sure that it's liquefied with the water for smooth application in each palm. Now, keeping in mind not to cover the black. Again, I recommend you take your time. So that you slide with the fan brush, you slide, if you're doing the right side, you slide to the right, the way I'm doing here. You will start to see the transformation slowly into a beautiful palm tree. Now we may think of a palm tree or any tree as green, but in fact every tree has many different colors. You're going to notice that I'm probably using 4 different colors to create this palm tree, to create these palms. Keep in mind, if you have a thin palm, use a smaller fan brush. Now notice it's a light green, but not, I mean I could add even more yellow to the green, but I think it's best if I keep it at this type of green, at this level. Notice that adding the second layer is a lot easier than when we added the black. And if you take your time, every layer becomes a lot easier. Just don't rush. Now if you look at it now, you can see, you can still see a lot of the black underneath the green that I just applied. Now I'm adding yellow. Wherever I see the sun hitting, and that's easy to do since I do have the picture that shows where the yellow goes. So now we're on the 3rd layer. First I did black, then the green, now I'm applying the yellow. And again, I'm still using a fan brush. Again, be careful not to overdo it with the yellow. Just apply the yellow wherever it is appropriate. You want to leave a lot of that black and green underneath. So the yellow will only be applied wherever the sun may be hitting. And there's quite a few places on this palm where the sun is not hitting, especially at the top of this palm. But there are some areas, tiny areas, where, as you can see here, where the sun does hit. And you want to show that. Now I notice in the picture that there's a short palm in the front, and it's almost yellow because the sun is hitting pretty hard. So I'm going to go ahead and add that palm in the front, and that helps to create a more realistic palm and a better perspective. I'm doing it mostly with yellow. And again, take your time when you're doing it. Even though it's a short one, just because it's short doesn't mean that it doesn't require detail. I'm using the fan brush. You can use a smaller fan brush if you prefer. Now this area where I'm creating that last palm is wet, so I may not be able to get it just the way I want to. So I'm going to do it the best I can here, but what I recommend is that if this happens to you, you just simply let the acrylic paint dry and then just go back and redo that specific palm. Now I'm using a liner to add yellow to each palm. This is what I call the details that you leave for last. And again, you take your time for each one. And you add that yellow as you see in the picture. With the liner, you can add additional parts to the palms. These are the details I'm talking about. These details make the difference between a realistic and non-realistic palm. Now we can take a closer look, study it, and decide what other colors, if any, may be necessary. As I look at the picture, I notice that some of the palms are drying out. And for that, I'll probably use yellow ochre or very light brown, or both. So far we have used the black, the green, and the yellow. 3 layers. I'm adding some yellow ochre in the bottom one, the bottom palm on the left. Let's see where else I can add brown. Okay, here's another one that has brown. Little brown there. Tiny, tiny, tiny bit of brown. You don't want to overdo it, just in certain areas. And you can see how realistic this palm tree is becoming. Now I just study it, study the palms up close, and try to determine if there's anything else I can do to improve it. Now I do notice that in the picture the green is slightly darker. Actually it's quite dark, so I'm going to add some darker green on top with the fan brush. Adding a little darker brown in some areas here. And at this point I would look at it carefully and I would say, let me just finish, well actually let me just go ahead. I think the palms are finished. I'm just going to touch the bottom of the trunk here because it tends to be a little darker. And I will consider this a completed palm tree. Now of course this is not a complete painting because I do have to create mountains and I have to do other things to make it a complete painting. But this is to show you how to create a realistic palm tree.